Hi, my name is Carrie Olsen, and thank you so much for attending my session. I am so glad to be a part of the I Am Mom Summit. Such an amazing event for moms to come and just get encouraged, and I'm super glad to be a part of it. So today I'm talking to you about how to monetize your passion, specifically in an hour a day. So to put that in other words, how to bring in some extra income with something that you're already interested in, maybe something that you're already doing, maybe something that's been on your mind for a long time and you've thought, man, it would be really cool to be able to do something with that, to really bring in an income with that idea or that passion or that gift or that skill or even that hobby. And how to do that, but as a mom, and knowing that our time is so precious and so limited, how do you do that with limited time? So a lot of what I'll get into is the practical steps, how to know if your idea is a good one, how to get an idea if you don't have one. What are the actual steps that you need to do to start making some money with that idea? And then also, really, really importantly, how do you make the time for that? So I'm really excited to jump into those things with you. But before we get in too deep, I want to talk a little bit about me and my story and my background. So I am a full-time professional voice actor. I do voiceover work from home, from my home studio, mostly for TV and radio commercials. You may have heard me and some, interrupting your Hulu with some ads, or maybe on Pandora, TV and radio, doing different ads and campaigns. I also do a lot of e-learning narration and promo. Really anywhere where you hear a voice but don't see a face, that's what I do. And before I got into voiceover full-time, I was working a corporate job as an e-learning designer. Prior to that, my husband and I have had several podcasts. We've written several books. We've sold online products and courses. We've done a book tour. At one point, we sold half of our belongings, put the rest of it in storage, bought a travel trailer, and toured the United States with our 1-year-old and to promote our book, One Bed, One Bank Account. Since then, we've had a second daughter, so we have 2 kids now, Amelie and Ruby. Amelie's almost 5, and Ruby will be just turned 2. And one thing I want to touch on before we get too deep is this idea of, kind of the elephant in the room, mom guilt. When are we not experiencing that? No matter what decision we make, there's always the question of, is this the right thing? Should I be spending my time in other ways? And one thing I just want to encourage you with is that when you start a business, if you do it the right way, and if you aren't valuing it above your family and above other things, and aren't over-sacrificing for that business idea, it's good for you to have something else that you're kind of pouring energy into. Now, a lot of this, of course, is dependent on your time of life. If you have just had a newborn, for instance, it might not be the best time to start a new business. And all of our stories are different. All of our situations are different. So I can't say, umbrella statement that it's going to be good for you to start a business. But for a lot of us, and sometimes you can feel that itch. You can feel that, all right, it's time for me to do something new. And if that's the case and you're feeling that way, then it can be very, very good and healthy for you to have something else that you're pouring energy into, something productive that's kind of goal-oriented, where you're able to feel like you're achieving something outside of what, maybe your norm looks like. And it's also good for your kids to see you doing that as well, and to see, mom working towards goals and being intentional and, having a schedule and sticking to it. All of that is good for our kids to see as well. So I want to encourage you in that way. And of course, keeping self-care at the forefront of that, and not going too far with it, but just, if you're wondering, is it okay that I do something else? It is. I'm giving you permission. Of course, do that self-reflection that only you can do to decide if it's the right time for you. But just want to encourage you in that way. So as with anything, I think it's a good idea to evaluate your why. Why are you wanting to start a small business or to start monetizing your passion? So there are a few reasons that might come up for you. If you want, you can take a few seconds and kind of, pause this video and think about what are the reasons why you might want to do that. Might be a creative outlet, financial freedom, or at least, financial help and financial contribution. I'm not talking about, starting a multi-million-dollar enterprise or anything like that, but it's something that as a mom that you can do on the side in your quote unquote spare time. We'll talk about how to carve out some time here a little bit later. But maybe just that financial flexibility or that contribution. Again, it's good for your kids to see you doing something. And then maybe you're not trying to start a business necessarily, but just for the productivity benefits, of learning how to manage your time like you are running a business. And so that's the first point I want to make, is to treat your life like it's a business. You don't have to be super strict about it. And I don't know how that comes across to you if you think like, well, but I want to have fun. I want to enjoy life. I want to be spontaneous. What I have found is that the more I kind of plan and structure, it's given me more freedom to do those things, to be more spontaneous. I'm less tired. I'm more intentional. And one thing that I think is really important, and that I think we all are concerned about as moms, is, spending quality time with our kids. But when you plan ahead of time, you get to decide what that quality time actually consists of. Because I think if you don't plan, you might find yourself going, okay, I've got this time to spend with my kids that can be quote unquote quality. But if you haven't decided what you're going to do at that time, you might spend the first, if you've got 2 hours, you might spend the first hour just trying to figure out what to do. So I found that taking the time to plan, both in business and in life, has actually freed up my life a lot more and made it possible for me to do more things that I feel like I might be losing by planning, if that makes any sense. Let's move into the practical. All right, we've got this idea, or maybe just a desire to bring in some income with an idea, with a hobby or a skill. So first, do some brainstorming. What is your idea? Maybe you already know. Maybe it's that thing. I was watching an interview with Stephen Pressfield, who wrote The War of Art. Oprah was interviewing him, and he was saying that everyone has a calling, and there are a few questions you can ask yourself to figure out what that is. He said most people know. If you just ask, what's your calling? Most people have this thing back in the back of their mind that maybe they've never told anyone before. Maybe you've never told anyone, but you feel like, man, it's just this thing that I've always wanted to do. I talked to someone recently who was like, I've just always wanted to try acting. So maybe there's that thing that, that you would never tell anyone, but it's there. What would you do if fear wasn't a factor? So if you weren't afraid to do it, what would be that thing? What's the thing that when you were a kid you wanted to do and someone convinced you that you couldn't? Someone, consistently told you that you couldn't. So you can take a few minutes, again, if you want, pause the video and brainstorm, what are those things? Or again, maybe you already know what that thing is that you would want to do. And just to give you an idea of, if you're thinking, well, I have this passion, or I have this idea, or I have this hobby that I like to do, but there's no way I can monetize that. I did a little bit of research to see just what are some of the wacky ways that people are making money these days. So I Googled some of the most unique ways that people are making money. And so there's someone who is making money off of horse-shaped gifts. So these are gifts of various types that are shaped like horses. So there's a niche of people who love horses, and there are enough of those people to fully fund this company that makes horse-shaped gifts. There's a website called Send Cat Facts, and it's a one-page site that just has facts about cats that you can go to and send to your friends. That's all it does, and this is making a ton of money. There's one that has news about retired Lego sets. So Legos that are no longer being produced anymore. And it's just information about these Lego sets that are retired. Fantasy sports, word games, wedding ideas, relationship advice, cat gifts, travel. So no matter what your passion is, if you're thinking, well, there's no way that I can actually monetize that, I guarantee you there's something weirder out there. So don't put yourself in a box. As a matter of fact, I feel like the weirder your idea is, probably the better, because there might not be a million, tons and tons of people, but if you can get a small audience of people who love what you do, sometimes that's better. So don't throw an idea out the window just because it seems strange. Okay, so now that you've got an idea, you want to validate it. One of the biggest mistakes that people make with new ideas, especially if you're someone like me who gets an idea a minute and you know yourself. You know that you're going to, get really excited about an idea, put in, some time or some energy or some effort. And then after a month or so, the energy kind of starts to go down. You lose steam on it. And then another big idea pops up. So my advice to you there is to validate your idea first, because the sooner that you can realize that an idea is not going to work, the better. It's better for you to have an idea that you're super excited about and then decide, well, there's actually not a market for that, or I'm actually not the right person for that. I wouldn't enjoy doing that. To figure those things out first, rather than to start running forward with it and then realize after you've invested a lot of time, energy, and maybe even money to figure those things out later. So a way to validate your ideas, I recommend mulling it over for at least a month. So before you, buy a website domain, which I own so many domain names, it's embarrassing. I've actually started to let some of them expire because I'm never going to do anything with, I bought Budget with Friends. Sounds, that would have been fun, especially back when my husband and I were doing more of our personal finance stuff, but I'm never going to do anything with that. So I'm going to let it go. But that was an impulse buy. So before you go out and start buying domain names and thinking about your branding colors and all of that, mull it over for a month. Also, you can tell people about it, and tell people about it for honest feedback. Tell people that are going to give you some honest feedback and not just say, oh, well, that sounds great. Have fun with that. Of course I would buy it. Ask people who you trust and get their feedback on it. See what their interest level is. If you have an audience, and by the way, if you have a Facebook account or Instagram account, you do have an audience, whether you realize it or not, post about it, about your idea, and ask them what they think and get some feedback. So once you've got the idea validated, now what? So there are several ways that you can go about monetizing your idea. It might be a physical product that you're wanting to sell. It might be a service that you're wanting to start doing. It might be an information product like a course or an ebook. Maybe you want to do graphic design, web design, interior design, start a blog, have an Etsy shop or something else where you're kind of making things by hand, or voiceover, for example, which of course is what I do. One of the lowest barrier to entry ways to monetize your passion and your gifting is with an online course or an ebook or something like that. Every single course that I've made was not created yet when it went for sale. So I did what I talked to you about with validating the idea, building it as I told my audience about it, and actually having sales before I'd created anything. So you can actually pre-sell your idea and your knowledge before you've made it. And that actually acts as more validation, because anyone can say, oh yeah, I would buy that from you. But when you start to see dollar signs come in and someone's actually paying you for it, then you go, okay, yes, this is something that could work because people are actually interested enough to buy it. I can't emphasize enough that you need an email list. At the very least, some kind of audience, engaged audience, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But email list, I believe, is still the best way to go on that. And just because even if you're going to do something like write a book for authors, you are more likely to get published in a traditional sense if you have an audience already. It's not really so much about writing a great book and then having a publisher go out and market it for you anymore. The people who are the most successful are the ones who have their own audiences already. So no matter what you're doing, I recommend starting to build an email list. And if that sounds daunting, literally call your best friend, ask your husband, call your parents and, your cousins, all of that, and just say, hey, I've got this idea. Would you mind if I put your name on my email list to get updated, once a month or whatever it is? And you've got an email list. So that's how it starts. Just go through and ask people, go through your contacts in your phone just to start building that audience. Once you do have your product, encourage the people who are buying your product and who are on your list to share, via word of mouth. Maybe have them share on, social media channels and things like that to get the word out more about your product. Your business model does not have to be fancy. You could go out and buy, some courses about how to start a business, how to do a startup, how to be a freelancer or an entrepreneur. And you could spend a lot of money and time doing that. But it does not have to be super complicated. If you have, my mom sells baked goods. She sells gluten-free baked goods. And a lot of what she does is word of mouth. She'll literally walk into a shop and say, "Are you interested in carrying my things?" And, she's not very savvy on, the internet and social media and everything, but she can make a sale by walking around and just asking people, and then handing out cards and having incentives for people to share with other people, and having specials, around the holidays and things like that. And, she won't do a Facebook ad, but she'll post on Facebook, just where her friends see it and things like that. So keep in mind, it doesn't have to be a huge, marketing initiative that you are undertaking.
All right, now I want to move into something very, very practical. And this is for those of you who are saying, all right, great, I've got an idea. I've got the drive. I know what it takes. I've already done the planning. I have validated the idea. I already have my schedule worked out. What do I do? What are the practical steps that I need to take to move this idea forward and to take it from idea to actual profitable business? And unfortunately, we don't have time to go into every scenario because there are a lot of ways, and of course, we can get very in depth with each step you can take. So the one idea that I want you to leave you with that is so, so powerful and doesn't take a huge system and a lot of know-how and knowledge to do. You can systemize it and you can make it very complicated, but it doesn't have to be that. So this model, this system, this thing that you can use that can help to take your business from idea to profitable business is the idea of partnerships. And if you think of, YouTube collaborators, people do this all the time. On YouTube, if you got a show, one way to get more exposure to your show is to go onto someone else's YouTube channel who has a bigger audience than you or a smaller audience than you, to get more exposure to your thing. And you can use this model in whatever your industry is, whatever your idea, your product is. You can use this idea of partnerships. And it doesn't have to be social media. Don't limit yourself to, YouTube and Instagram. Think outside the box and think of all the different ways that you could partner with other people who have audiences. And if you're thinking of who should I partner with, there are several different ways that you can think about that. Some are going to be people who are in the same industry as you, but my favorite is people who are in what's kind of tangential industries. So for example, if you want to start a jewelry shop and you're making jewelry, you might not want to partner with other jewelry makers because you might think of yourselves as being competitors, although I think there's enough business for everyone. I love partnering with people, whether they're doing what I'm doing or not. But you might want to partner with someone that does something tangential to jewelry, maybe someone who sells scarves, someone who does some other type of accessory. So really use one of those planning hours that we're setting aside for you to think about what are the different partnership opportunities that you could utilize. And what I want to make sure I communicate and that you have this idea as you move forward with partnerships is that a partnership is about you serving the partner. It will come back to how it benefits you, but if you can offer something to someone else's audience, that will get their attention. People get pitches all the time for different collaborations and partnerships, but when you can show that you can provide value to that person, whether that's teaching their audience something new, holding a free workshop in exchange for exposure to their audience, something like that, when you show that you can provide value, that really sets you apart and will make it a lot more likely for that person to want to partner with you. But just like when we talked about with email lists, start with people that you know. And I want you to really, really just trust the benefits and the potential of this idea of partnerships.
Okay, so we've talked some about how to get an idea, how to validate an idea, what some of those ideas might be as far as the type of business that you might want to start. Information is great, but how are you supposed to find the time to start a business when you have kids and a husband and obligations and all of that? So one thing I want to encourage you to do, I've talked before about how my husband and I wrote books on personal finance, so budgeting is something that we're pretty into. And we really like the idea of having a budget, not just for your money, for your finances, but also for your time. So have a time budget that you literally write out and budget out your time, because just like your money, you have a limited amount of time and you want to make sure you're spending it in the places that you want. And I like to do what I call a reverse time budget. So instead of saying, okay, I've got this business idea, where do I squeeze in time for this in my time budget? Start first with the things that you want to make sure you do. What are your values? What are your priorities? Things that you want to make sure you do, put those on your budget first and make sure you've got time for those. And then start to build in everything else around it. And one really big part about this time budget, and especially when you're going to try to start something new, like a new business, is what are you going to say no to? When your plate's full and then you want to add something else on it, something else has got to go off the plate. So think about that. What are the things that, so that you can get this hour a day to work on your business, what is something that you're going to say no to? And really think about that and make the decision that for the next 6 months, I'm not going to watch Netflix at night. Whatever that thing is that you can cut out so that you can squeeze this in. And one thing I really want to emphasize here is that we've all heard the term hustle. And I think that can be a good thing. And I've had times in my business life when I've done, I've had a schedule that wasn't sustainable, but I thought, well, I can do this for a limited amount of time. So for 3 weeks, I'm going to, get up earlier. I'm not going to get enough sleep for this 3 weeks so that I can really dig into XYZ. That's a personal decision you have to make. If there's something you want to do where you say, okay, this isn't sustainable, but I can do it for a couple weeks so that I can get ahead in this area, as long as you're still taking care of yourself and as long as you know that that's not permanent. So you can say, put it in your schedule. I'm going to, give up my morning, whatever it is, run. Maybe you're going to give up your morning run so that you can spend some time, divert that time to your business. But you need that run. So, you're going to make sure that you come back to it later. But that's one way that you can do it for a limited amount of time. But besides that, just think of the things that you can live without. If something feels like this is too big, I can't possibly stop doing that thing. Try it. Because it might not be, chances are you're going to stop doing that thing and then go, that I was worried for nothing. It was no big deal. And it's very helpful and beneficial for your life anyway. And the next point I want to make, going back to the idea of planning, is that the work you do on the front side of your idea, I know it can be really tempting, again, to just jump right in and to start, just hit the ground running with, getting your LLC registered, if that's what you're going to do. And again, branding colors, website, and all of that. But the more time you take on the front end of that, the more time you're going to save on the end. So it not only helps to validate your idea, but it also makes the time that you spend later more productive because you have a more fleshed out plan. So you've spent a month validating. Your next month, once you're ready to go, spend that literally planning. So every hour that you get, plan for the next, 6 months so that, again, when you sit down to do work, you know what work to do. You don't have to spend that time, half of it, figuring out what's the best thing to do. And so depending on which way you decide to go, find communities, get a mentor, find someone who has, who's been on that path already and ask them to help or for guidance or to meet with you. Find Facebook communities or other online communities or local communities where you can ask questions and be around other people who are doing similar things. And then on the really, really practical side, how to do this. How do you make this time? And of course, it's impossible to make time. So you have to just be really intentional with the time that you have. So I want to share some really practical tools that I use. So I'm a bit of a productivity junkie. And so I try a lot of different systems to see what I like and what works well for me. This is one of my favorite analog planners. It's called the Full Focus Planner. It's one of Michael Hyatt's products. And it's just a really nice, high quality planner. But it has some really neat things. It's got a daily big 3. So what are the most important things that you need to get done that day? Other tasks. It's got morning ritual. So which I'll share what mine is here in a little bit. A workday startup ritual. It's got some great quotes. You get to decide, what type of tasks you're working on that day. One of the great things that I love about it is at the beginning, it has these little places where you can do, daily ritual, workday startup ritual, workday shutdown ritual, evening ritual. Another one that's very similar is the Panda Planner. And this is it's similar, but it's less expensive than the full focus planner. So it has a lot of the same ideas with morning routine. It also has some, I'm grateful for, I'm excited about. So these are great things that you can just, jump in 10 minutes in the morning and really get a sense for what your day is going to be like. If you feel like you have no time to spare, the more that you start to log that time and be intentional and think about it, you'll find that there are places where you can improve. And it just helps mentally to not keep everything up here all the time, but to be able to get it all out and not have 1,000 things racing through your head, but just think, what's my number one priority for today? And so that's one really practical way to work in and to find a way to work in that hour a day that you can spend on monetizing your passion. Another thing that I love, and this is on the digital side, is this app called Nomi. And it's just Nomie. And I'll share, this is what I use now for my daily routine. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but everything from, so I wake up and I drink some water. That's the first thing. And I do a 1 tap here, and that tells it that I've done that thing. Then I go through, I have a daily reminder that I read every day. So if there's something that kind of a mantra that you want to speak to yourself, whether that's, a Bible verse or a saying or just a note that you've written to yourself. Mine is more of a letter that I wrote to myself. And so I do my daily reminder. I read, I've got Bible reading here, meditation, gratitude writing. I try to do, I don't get to all of these every day. I have some kind of backup things for if I miss gratitude writing that day. Maybe I'll just do an audio note into my phone for gratitude that day as I'm going about my day if I don't have time to do gratitude writing. I have a lot of other resources for, if there's a specific type of business that you're wanting to monetize and that you're wanting to start to make money with. There's a link, I believe, at the bottom of this video or on this page that will take you to a page where you can opt in to get my Getting Started in Voiceover guide. And on that page, you'll also have the option to get a list of other resources that I recommend for moms to help you treat your life more like a business, and also to some of my favorite courses and other influencers and people who can help you on your journey to monetizing your passion. I believe one of the most important things that I can leave you with is just the idea of treating your life like a business. The title of this session was How to Monetize Your Passion in an Hour a Day. So I want that hour that you spend working on making money with your passion and your gifts to be productive. And I think the best way to do that is to be really intentional with your time. So to take some of these tools and start to implement them. Don't go crazy, because what will happen is if you overwhelm yourself with too many tools, like I'm going to start using Nomi, and I'm going to use the full focus planner, and I'm going to do a time budget. I'm going to do all these things and just, completely overhaul your life. You will get overwhelmed. You will get burned out and lose steam. So just add one thing a week. Maybe to start your morning routine, I'm going to wake up every morning and drink some water. And that's the first thing. I'm going to keep track of that. Once I've done that for a week, I'll add something else on and just start to build slowly. It's all about sustainability and being able to do this for the long haul. So you don't want to overwhelm yourself. And you want to give yourself the best chance to succeed. But I hope this is so helpful for you. Thank you so much for being here and for attending. Again, thanks to the I Am Mom Summit for bringing together so many really just helpful women to share important messages with other moms. Amelie just came upstairs and wanted to sit with me, so she's going to sit with me here for this last part. But I just wanted to leave you with some actionable things because it's so easy to sit back and watch a thing, but I would love for you to take real action and even reach out to me at my Instagram or Twitter or Facebook and let me know how it's going for you. So I want you to start a morning routine if you don't have one. Again, something really simple, just like get up and drink water, step one. Start an email list. So go and ask 10 people to be on your email list so that when you do start to move forward with your product, you have an audience and you can have them start to share your idea and let word of mouth, kind of get started. And then if you don't have your idea yet, take some time to brainstorm your idea and think about those questions of what would you do if fear wasn't a factor? And chances are, like I said earlier, you know what that thing is. So thank you so much for being here, and please keep me updated on how things are going for you. Take care.